Hi everyone! Thank you for choosing Glove Genie's glove knitting knit-along tutorial to go with the Rainbow Gloves and Mitten pattern. My name is Kyoko and I'll be guiding you step by step through making this happy pair of gloves. You'll find timestamps in the description, so please feel free to jump back and forth whenever you need to. In this knit-along, I have focused on the main technique that is used to make these gloves and mittens. For knitting fingers, please refer to my other YouTube tutorial that explains in detail the techniques used in knitting glove fingers. I have attached the link in description, and you can also find the link on the top right corner right now. Before we get started, make sure you've downloaded the PDF pattern first, as I'll be referring to this throughout the tutorial. Some parts of the video are fast-forwarded for a better flow rather than you having to watch slowly without knowing when to stop. And I have kept this fast-forwarded portion around 5 to 6 seconds maximum. The pattern comes in 6 sizes. I'll be making the women's size S, which is an 8.5 centimeter palm width. To find your size, measure the widest part of your palm and don't add any ease here, as the pattern already includes 1 centimeter of ease. If you're in between sizes, I suggest go with the larger one. The yarn I'm using is Jamieson's of Shetland Spindrift, which is my all-time favorite yarn for making gloves. And the main color of the glove is Gusset, which is a lovely neutral shade that lets the rainbow really shine. You'll also need 2 stitch markers, a piece of waste yarn to hold stitches, a yarn needle for finishing, and for needles you'll need 2.5mm for the cuff, 2.75mm for the main part. You can use either double-pointed needles or circular needles, whichever the method you find comfortable. For this particular tutorial, I have used circular needles for the main part using the magic loop method. All the tools I've used will be listed in the description. It's very tempting to dive straight into knitting, but do take your time to make sure you've got the right tension and adjust your needle size if you need to. Getting the tension right is one of the best ways to make sure the gloves fit properly, and it's worth taking a moment here. And I'm so excited to get started. Let's cast on. The cuff for this glove is knitted in double ribbing, and in this video I want to show you a special cast on method, which is tubular cast on for double ribbing. It gives a beautifully rounded edge and it is very elastic and makes the cuff look professional and neat. For the tubular cast on, make sure you have a long enough tail for the number of stitches you'll cast on. First, you'll do exactly the same as if you are doing a single ribbing tubular cast on. So start with a slip knot and place the loop on the needle. Since I'll be knitting in a round, I'm using double pointed needles for this demo. Hold the tail yarn on one side, which is this side, and then the working yarn on the other. And then make a pinch with your thumb and index finger, holding the 2 strands like this. So this is the method I've developed over the years of trials and error with tubular cast on in circular or round knitting. What you need to do is to make sure it is very tightly casted on, so that on the double pointed needles it doesn't unravel on round 1. You'll see what I mean in a minute. I'll cast on 12 stitches on each of 3 needles, since double ribbing is a multiple of 4. To create the knit stitch, bring the needle towards you above the yarn tail and then going under, and then come up through the middle and then go back over and around the working yarn, and then bring forward all the way to complete the stitch. And this forms a knit stitch, and which means that first slip knot stitch is going to be a purl stitch. Next, we're going to create a purl stitch. And so to do that, we'll do exactly the opposite. So move the needle back over and then down, and then up through the middle, forward to the front, and then around all the way to the back. And now you have a pearl stitch. Repeat these two motions, so knit, pearl, keeping the tension very firm so the stitches stay secure. Once you have 12 stitches, we're going to add the second needle. So we're going to add the second needle as if you're going to continue from the first. To do this, we're going to place the second needle in front of the first needle, and then we'll continue casting on. Because we finished on the knit stitch, so the next stitch will be a pearl, and then we'll make the knit stitch next. So do the same for the third needle. Again, making sure stitches are very tight and even. So now we finished casting on 12 on each 3 needles, and we're ready to join in the round. But the last stitch, if you leave it as it is, it can easily unravel itself. So here's my top tip. Before joining in the round, tie a small knot at the end of your cast on, so this one, to prevent unraveling. And once it's secure, we can now join to knit in a round carefully, making sure not to twist the stitches. So we all remember that the first stitch is going to be a pearl, followed by a knit, and so on. I'm using Addi Colibri needles, which have one classic tip and one lace tip on one needle. And I really love using these needles, and especially when I need precision, when the stitches are tight, like tubular cast on in this case, I used the lace tip, and it's easier to insert the needle into the stitch cleanly. So start by working your first round in a single ribbing. So for our case, purl 1, knit 1, all the way to the end of the round. And now you can see, because of the way that the stitches are created, when you work the purl, we'll have to purl through the back loop to make them neater. So you can see here, it is twisted more than it's supposed to be. I guess it comes with practice, but I know that this is an extra twist. So if you notice your work getting twisted like this, just gently unwind it once and then continue it. After completing the first round, we're going to do something quite interesting. We'll make this single rib into double ribbing using a small cable twist technique. So here's how to do it. Purl 1, then place the next stitch on the cable needle. I'm using an Addi metal cable needle. I love using metal cable needle because it's really firm and it doesn't bend easily. And then hold the cable needle in front, then purl 1 from the left needle. Then knit the stitch from the cable needle. And now this gives you purl, purl, knit, forming the start of your double ribbing pattern. And then now you work the next stitch as a knit stitch. So continue across the round, repeating this sequence. So purl 1, twist to front, and then knit 1. When you finish, you'll notice you have a clean purl knit throughout the cuff. So I've knitted a few more round here, and you can really see how lovely and even the edge appears. Sometimes I'd like to adjust and cheat a little bit on the edge, on the cast on edge slightly by hand to make sure it's nice and even. This tubular cast on variation for double ribbing is an excellent way to achieve a cuff that is both elastic, professional looking and polished. Just remember, when you do this ribbing, the key to success is keeping your cast on stitches very tight at the beginning and trying not to twist the cast on edge. So now we've finished the cuff and we are ready to make the rainbow motif, which is the best part of this pattern. First, we're going to break the main color so that it's easy to work the rainbow. And we are going to continue working the rainbow using 2.5mm needles. What we are going to do is working the rainbow over this section here. This is the beginning of the cuff round. We're going to work the rainbow back and forth like this, and as we go, the size of the rainbow becomes larger. And as the rainbow grows, stitches along the cuff are gradually used up, so there is no grafting needed later. Each band of the rainbow is worked over 4 garter stitch rows, which forms 2 ridges. On the first and second rows, we take 2 stitches from the cuff on each row, so 4 cuff stitches are consumed. And on the third and fourth rows, we take 1 stitch per row, using 2 more cuff stitches. So in total, each rainbow band uses 6 stitches from the cuff. The first color is number 600 violet. To make this easier, it helps to redistribute the stitches on the circular needle. And so it's easier to knit back and forth. So now we're ready to add number 600 violet. So we knit 1, yarn over twice. Then what we're going to do is to do a slip, slip, slip knit. Or you can do slip, slip, knit 1, pass the 2 slipped stitches over, and that decreases 2 stitches on this side. Turn the work. Now we're going to knit to the last stitch of the color, but knit through the back of the loop of the yarn over you just made so as to close the gap. And this time we knit 3 together. So 1 from the rainbow color and 2 from the cuff. Turn the work again. For the next 2 rows, we consume the cuff stitches slightly differently. We do knit 1 yarn over 4 times. And then this time, we do slip, slip, knit, consuming 1 stitch from the cuff instead of 2. Turn the work, knit to last stitch, and again knit through the back of the loop so that the yarn over closes. And then on the last stitch, we do knit 2 together, so 1 from the rainbow color and 1 from the cuff. So now in total we have consumed 6 stitches from the cuff, and we have done the first band of the rainbow. The rest is worked the same way. Add the next color, which is 707 Eclipse. So we add the yarn in the same way as before, so tuck it inside. So the band of the indigo is worked exactly the same as violet, but if you follow the pattern, this time we do knit 2, yarn over 4 times. And then, because this is the first set of garter stitch for this color, we do slip, 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 then knit. You can gradually see how the cuff stitches are being consumed along the way here. Turn the work, knit to last stitch, just like before, we do knit 3 together at the end of the wrong side row. Now this is the second set of the garter stitch for this rainbow band, so we do slip, slip, knit, and turn, and this time we knit 2 together. Now the color is finished, so I'll cut the yarn. Next, we are going to add blue. This one is called 757 Splash. I'm going to speed this part up because the process is basically the same. At this point, I've run out of space on the needle, so I need to redistribute the stitches. I'll just move them around like this, somewhere comfortable so it's easier to knit. This is the third row of this rainbow band, so we're doing the knit 2 together at the end of the row. Next color is cornfield. Last but not least, I'm going to use 500 scarlet. I'll redistribute the stitches again so everything sits comfortably on the needles. What we need to do now is rest the rainbow stitches. These rainbow stitches are the same for all glove sizes, and you should have 57 stitches in total. First, we need to divide these stitches into 3 sections and place them onto waste yarn. So we're going to put 20 stitches from this side and 20 stitches from this side and 17 stitches at the top. And these top 17 stitches will later be worked into the main part of the glove as you continue knitting. So let's go ahead and do that. First, I'm going to place 20 stitches onto the waste yarn. So that's 20 stitches. And next, I'm going to place 17 stitches from the middle onto a separate waste yarn. And then I'll place the last 20 stitches onto the third waste yarn. Okay, so now all of these stitches are secure and resting. And we're now ready to move on to the thumb gusset shaping and shaping around the rainbow. So now I have the rainbow section divided into 3 parts. And this central part is where we're going to pick up the stitches later. And this part here are where we're going to graft at the very end. You should also have some stitches left from the cuff. What you want to do is place a stitch marker on either side of this central stitch here. Now we're going to knit the main section of the glove. At this point, it's important that you read the pattern thoroughly before you work this section. And that's because we're working on the gusset shaping, which is here, as well as shaping the main part around the rainbow, which is here at the same time. If I show you this closely, you can see where the stitch markers are placed at the moment. We're going to increase stitches on either side of the thumb gussets. But at the same time, we are also increasing stitches here around the rainbow. And this central part here is where you're going to pick up stitches later. Now, because we are starting the main part of the glove, we're going to change the needle size from 2.5mm to 2.75mm circular needle. And for the gusset increasing round, this is what we're going to do. Knit to the marker, slip marker, then make one left slanting increase, then knit to the next marker, make one right slanting increase, then slip marker and knit to the end. But at the same time, we will do the shaping around the rainbow, which happens at the beginning and the end of the row. What we're going to do is to keep this stitch here as one stitch as a kind of selvage stitch. So we knit one stitch, then do the left slanting increase, which is make one L, then knit across to the last stitch and then make one right slanting increase and then knit the last stitch. The shaping around the rainbow is exactly the same for all sizes. Now I'm going to add the new yarn. So because we're increasing one stitch every 4 rows at this stage, we start with knit 1, and this is going to be the selvage stitch. And then we will do M1L, so make one left. And to do this, lift the strand of yarn between the stitches with the right needle like this, and then knit through the back loop. And you can see that this stitch twists towards the left. Then we knit to the marker. Slip the marker and then make another M1L. Again, lift the strand of the yarn between the stitches using the right needle from the back and then knit through the back loop. And you can see that this stitch twists towards the left. Then knit to the next marker, and now we're going to do a make one R, make one right. And to do this, lift the strand of the yarn between the stitches from behind using left needle, like this, and then knit into that strand. And you can see that this increased twist to the right. Slip the marker and then knit to the last stitch. And because we are also increasing here around the rainbow shaping, we're going to work the same make one R again. And then knit the last stitch, which is the other selvage stitch. Now the wrong side row is just purl stitches, slipping the markers as you come to them. You can see now that in between the markers there are 3 stitches, and this is how the gusset starts to grow. So you carry on like this, following the pattern and doing the increases both at the thumb gusset shaping and around the rainbow. The shaping around the rainbow is the same for all sizes, but then the frequency of the thumb gusset shaping is different between different sizes, so please do refer to the pattern for your size. Now I finished shaping the rainbow, and depending on the size you're making, this rainbow shaping will finish either before or after you place the thumb gusset stitches onto a waste yarn. I'm making 8.5 cm palm width size, so I finished the rainbow shaping before placing the thumb gusset stitches onto waste yarn. If you're making a smaller size, the thumb gusset shaping will finish before the rainbow shaping, and I'll show you how this is done in the next chapter. And if you're making a smaller size, please check the chapter links in the description to jump ahead if needed. For larger sizes, we're going to join the main part of the glove to the top part of the rainbow. If you remember, we divided the rainbow stitches into 3 sections: this side, and the top. We're now going to join this top section to the main part of the glove. So the first stitch is a slip stitch, and then we knit to the end of the row. Work to the marker, and then work the thumb gusset stitches as established. In my case, this row is a non-increasing row, so I just knit to the next marker and then slip the marker. Now we're going to join the top part. I bring this side of the circular needle back like this, and then I insert the central 17 stitches onto the left needle. So all of these central stitches are now on the left needle, facing to the right. Now that I have all 17 stitches, I can pull out the waste yarn because I don't need it anymore. To make things easier, and as we're working using the magic loop method, this section here is the thumb gusset. So I'll pull the cable out in the middle to create a loop. And this will make it easier for me to knit. Continuing with the main color, I now knit the first 8 stitches from the top of the rainbow. And then this becomes the beginning of the round. You can place the marker here if you want to. But because I'm using a magic loop method, I just pull the cable out so that I know where the beginning of the round is. Now I knit the rest of the rainbow stitches. And then bring the rest of the stitches around and join the work in the round. Slip the marker and continue knitting in the round. At this point, I still have one more row before I place the thumb gusset stitches onto waste yarn, so I continue knitting in a round using the magic loop method. Now I've come to the point where the rainbow is joined, so I continue knitting. And this brings me to the end of the round. Now we are ready to place the thumb gusset stitches onto waste yarn. And these here are the thumb gusset stitches. First, remove the stitch marker. Then use a yarn needle to place the thumb gusset stitches onto a piece of waste yarn. This isolates the thumb stitches so we can work them later. Once the thumb stitches are on the waste yarn, we're going to make one loop cast on stitch. And to do the loop cast on, make a loop like this. Place it onto the needle and pull it gently. And then continue knitting the other side. Now the thumb stitches are isolated, and this part will be worked later. If you reach the loop cast on stitch and it feels a little bit flimsy, and if you accidentally drop it like this, there's nothing to worry about. Just pick up the stitch from front to back with your left needle and scoop it up, and then knit through the back loop, and that rescues the stitch. Now you can see that the top part is joined and the thumb gusset stitches are safely isolated. We continue working in a round until we reach the desired height, which is the base of the little finger. If you're knitting a pair of gloves, there is a detailed video tutorial available for knitting the glove fingers. So please refer to that video when you reach the finger section. The stitch count are different, but the method is exactly the same. For the smaller sizes, 6.5 and 7.5 and 8, centimeter palm width, the thumb gusset shaping is completed before the rainbow shaping finishes. So in that case, you place the thumb gusset stitches onto waste yarn first, then continue working flat knitting until you finish the rainbow shaping part. And the process is identical for both mitten and the glove. And this example here is a mitten in a 6.5 centimeter size, which fits a child aged around 3 to 5 years. I have already completed the thumb gusset shaping and I have knitted up to the marker, and I'm now about to put the thumb gusset stitches aside. First, remove the stitch marker. Then place the thumb gusset stitches onto waste yarn using yarn needle. Then we make a loop cast on stitch. Make a loop like this and insert the loop into the needle and pull it slightly and continue knitting. Then continue finishing the rainbow shaping in flat knitting. Now the rainbow shaping is finished, and this is the thumb gusset shaping. We're now going to join the top of the rainbow. Slip one stitch, then knit all the way to the end of the row. Bring the needle around so that the tips are facing each other like this. Then place the central 17 stitches back onto the left needle. Now remove the waste yarn because we don't need it anymore. And because this section stretches, we're going to create a loop at the thumb gusset area. So because we are working in magic loop method, we are going to create a loop just before the loop stitch that we created. Because this point is the end of the first part of the glove, and it also indicates the beginning of the other side of the glove. So now I knit the first 8 stitches and making sure the join is quite tight. And you can place a marker here, or if you're knitting with magic loop method like I am, pull the cable out and then this loop marks the beginning of the round. And then knit the rest of the 9 stitches from the rainbow. After that, you can join the main part of the glove. From here, you simply knit in a round in stockinette stitch until you reach the desired length for your glove or mitten. As I mentioned before, just in case you skipped the previous part, If you're knitting a pair of gloves, there is a detailed video tutorial available for knitting the glove fingers. So please refer to that video when you reach the finger section. And the stitch count may be different in the video, but the method is exactly the same. Right, I've knitted up to the point where I am now ready to make the decreases. The decrease sequence is as follows. Every decrease round, we decrease 4 stitches. This is the beginning of the round, and we decrease 1 stitch here and 1 stitch at the end of one side. If you're working with double pointed needles, this is where the stitch marker indicates the beginning of the other side of the glove. Then you decrease here and decrease here as well. So altogether, we'll be decreasing 4 stitches per round until we have finished the decreasing. So let's go ahead and do that. The pattern will tell you to do a slip-slip knit. And then knit to 2 stitches before the next marker, which is going to be here. And then knit 2 together. And then you go to the other side and then do the same. Slip, slip, knit. Knit to 2 stitches before the next marker. And then knit 2 together. Make sure that the both sides of the glove have the same number of stitches. You keep working this decrease round until you have finished all the decreasing. Right, so now I have finished shaping the top of the mitten and it's looking quite nice. And the rainbow section still needs to be grafted, but I am now ready to graft the top of the mitten using Kitchener stitch method. And because this is a slightly fine yarn and difficult to see, there is a separate YouTube video. I have put the link in the description below, but also you can find it at the top right corner right now. Here's what you need to do. First, break the yarn, leaving enough length to graft across the top. And thread the yarn onto a needle. Now we begin with a setup stitch. On the front needle, insert the needle purlwise. And pull the yarn through, but don't release this stitch yet. Then insert the needle knitwise into the back needle. Pull the yarn and leave that stitch on. From now on, we repeat this sequence. On the front needle, knitwise off, purlwise on. On the back needle, we do purlwise off and knitwise on. And let me show you what I mean. Let me zoom in a little bit. Front needle, insert the needle knitwise, slip it off. So we've just done knitwise off. And then purlwise on is insert the needle as if you're going to purl, but keep this stitch on. On the back needle, purlwise off, which is insert the needle purlwise and slip it off. Then knitwise on, which is insert the needle knitwise and then keep the stitch on. As you go along, just make sure that the yarn doesn't get tangled. And we're going to repeat this. Front needle knitwise off, purlwise on. Back needle purlwise off, knitwise on. front needle, knitwise off, purlwise on. As you can see, I quite like to adjust the stitches as I go along. Back needle, purlwise off, knitwise on. Knitwise off, purlwise on. And then complete the sequence, so now you have a really nice tidy stitches. This is basically the same as finishing the tip of the socks. What we need to do is insert the needle and keep the tail of the yarn inside. And you've got a nice seamless join. What I'm going to do now is to adjust the tension. So I finished the main part of the glove. And what we're going to do now is graft this side onto the glove to complete it. To graft, I'm going to use the main color. And I use the Kitchener stitch to graft the rainbow side of the stitches and then the ladder stitch to the main section. There is a video tutorial for Kitchener grafting method, so please refer to that video. So let's go ahead and do that. Insert the needle purlwise on the rainbow section, then insert the needle onto the main section of the glove from the front. Then go back into the next stitch and pick up a few stitches like this. And just keep an eye on what you're doing as you go. Insert the needle from the front and then back. The yarn gets a little tangled, so keep all the yarns nice and tidy and straight here. Then on the main glove side, you would do a ladder stitch. Then insert the needle on the same rainbow stitch from the front, then move onto the second rainbow stitch and insert the needle from the back. Then ladder stitch from the main part of the glove. Repeat this evenly along the rainbow. So insert the needle from the front on the rainbow stitch and back. Ladder stitch, and then front and back on the rainbow, and ladder stitch. Every now and then, just pause and check that everything is lining up properly. The last stitch can be a little tricky, so make sure you don't miss it. And once that's done, insert the yarn inside the glove and to finish it off. And now you'll do exactly the same for the other side. So now I finished grafting both sides of the rainbow. I'll break the yarn and then we're going to tidy up all the ends. Make sure everything is pulled inside of the glove. When you make gloves, you almost always get a small gap like this. Here and here. And to finish the glove in a really professional way, there is a simple trick. We use the yarn tail that was left outside of the glove when we started making the fingers. And we use this tail to weave in and out so it looks like part of the stitches. The best way to do this is actually to put the glove on your hand, and that way you can see exactly where the gaps are. For example, here you can see a small hole here. Using a yarn needle, just weave the yarn in and out like this. You can already see it's starting to look much nicer. This side here isn't too bad, so I won't do very much, just a minimal tidy up. You do this for all the fingers. Some areas won't need much work at all. Now, all you need to do is turn the glove inside out and finish off the yarn ends. Especially when you're using slightly sticky yarns, like Shetland wool. I don't usually tie knots. I just weave the yarn end neatly and then cut it. So I weave in along the same color stitches. Trim the yarn, and that's it. And you do the same thing for all the remaining ends. Once that's done, block the glove gently, and the glove is ready. I'm going to show you how to block the gloves the way I do. It's really simple. I've got this portable ironing board so I can do it on a table, which is quite handy. And these gloves are ready to be blocked. So I'm going to block this one and this one. There is no need to wash them first. All you need to do is to place a gentle steam over it. So this is just a basic iron, but if you want to invest in a really good iron with a continuous strong steam, that's great. You just need to apply the steam very gently without pressing down onto the fabric. Yarns like Jamieson's of Shetland block beautifully, and that's one of the reasons I love working with their yarns. I can completely trust them. When I apply a steam iron or block it with water, it always finishes amazingly to how I want it. I don't block the cuffs because I like them to be more elastic, but I do like my gloves nice and blocked and shaped a little bit. That's really all there is to it, though it does depend on the yarn. Some yarns are really hard to block, no matter how much you try. And now the gloves are looking really nice. So that's it. Make sure you just tuck in the ends. So here are the finished gloves and mitten. I am really pleased with how they have turned out. And thank you so much for knitting along with me. I hope you enjoyed making these gloves. If you found this knit along useful, please give the video a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss future knitting tutorials and yarn reviews. Thank you for watching, and as always, happy knitting!